Joining us now, we have the mayor of New Orleans, Mitch Landrieu. Good to have you on board this morning.
Good morning.
Understand that you're meeting with the Attorney General today.
We are.
Tell us what you're going to try and accomplish in that meeting.
Well, this is the second meeting, actually, that we're having with him. Yesterday, a group of mayors from across America also met with aides for the Secretary of Homeland Security to talk about how to keep the streets of America safe. I was listening to your earlier segment, and the same thing still applies. You know, if Congress would get about passing comprehensive immigration reform, a lot of these issues would be settled. But what's happening right now is that the Attorney General and Secretary of Homeland Security, in an effort to execute the President's executive order, are engaging in a battle, unfortunately, with big city mayors about actually how to get this done. Now, I think this goes without saying that the first priority of mayors and police chiefs across America is to keep the streets safe. We do this every day, and every day we do it in partnership with our federal partners, the FBI, the DEA, the ATF, the U.S. Marshals, the U.S. Attorneys.
Right.
And we're very interested in getting on the same page with this administration about how to make sure that we fight violent crime irrespective of people's immigration status. And so we're going to have a meeting today to see if we can get some clarity around those issues.
So, Mr. Mayor, you say the New Orleans Police Department will not be a part of President Trump's civil deportation force no matter how many times they ask. Is that the message you're going to deliver today?
Well, I think it's really important, again, to think through what it is that they're asking us to do. I think everybody can agree that the Attorney General, the Secretary, and the President have not exactly been on the same page about where the priority with immigration is. And go back to the point that if Congress would pass comprehensive immigration reform, this would be clear for us who have boots on the ground that are trying to make sure that the streets are safe. So one of the things now that some folks are saying is, listen, we're not talking about the DACA kids anymore, but then there's some examples of DACA kids being deported. We're not talking about the 11 million anymore, but there's some examples of them going after them and doing raids. And then now everybody's saying we just want to focus on the violent criminals. Mayors have always wanted to focus on violent criminals. In New Orleans, in partnership with the FBI and the DEA, we have arrested and prosecuted a large number of gang members, but our problem in New Orleans is mostly loosely knit neighborhood gangs that have been engaging in really bad behavior for a long time. Yeah. So what we want to do is work with the Attorney General. We want to work with Homeland Security, but they need to get clarity between them. And there's no clarity between DHS right now and DOJ about even what a sanctuary city is. So again, we're trying to sit down at the table, just eye to eye, and just kind of get on the same page. But they need to really identify what it is that they're asking us to do. Local police departments cannot be civil deportation forces. We don't ask the FBI to write parking tickets. We work with those guys to go fight violent criminals, and they shouldn't be asking local police departments to do the job for ICE, although we want to partner with them to make sure we get violent criminals off the street.
Gotcha. So, Mr. Mayor, so you yesterday, very early morning, workers removed the Liberty Monument. And it says here the Liberty Monument was erected in 1891 honoring the Crescent City White League, a group that attempted to overthrow the city's post-Civil War biracial government. Certainly that seems to be an easy call. But you're also going to be taking down a statue of General Robert E. Lee. Do you put Robert E. Lee and General Beauregard and Jefferson Davis in the same league as that obelisk?
Well, no, that obelisk is the worst of all of them. It was actually erected to honor the killing of police officers. And unfortunately, some of the people supporting the other monument support this one too. So I mean, that seems to be a no-brainer. The other three, though, interestingly enough, were put up after the Civil War by a group self-avowedly called the Cult of the Lost Cause. And they were put up to send a message to the rest of the nation that the South that the Confederacy was not coming along, even though the Confederacy was fought to destroy the nation. And they're in places of prominence in the city of New Orleans on city property. Now, as we rebuild the city after getting destroyed by Katrina, we look forward to our 300th anniversary. The question that the people of New Orleans began to ask was, do these statues actually reflect who we ever have been as a people? And the answer is no. And the people of New Orleans, I think, have a right to put on those particular pieces of property displays that reflect the entire history of who we are as New Orleanians. Neworleans, and the essence of who we are is diversity, it's inclusion, and it's not sending a message to the United States of America that we don't belong to you. So, Joe, you're kind of from the South. I don't want to insult you because I know you're from Florida, but
No, I'm from Northwest Florida. We are.
Yeah.
I got bad news for you. We're culturally we're on the Gulf Coast. We're kind of together.
exactly.
There, so.
Yeah, so you understand what it is that I'm talking about.
Well,
This fight's been going
let's
on
talk
for a
about
long
Pensacola,
time.
Florida. We got the City of Five Flags. Little known fact: Pensacola's been around for 455 years. And we've got Spanish flag, French flag, British flag, Confederate
Correct.
flag, U.S. flag. Do you think Pensacola should take down the Confederate flag? I mean, that's
Well,
part of that 455-year history.
Actually, you actually make my point for me. First of all, Pensacola has the right to do whatever Pensacola thinks is in the best interests of Pensacola. But what you just said was that Confederate flag was put in context. In the city of New Orleans, we only have a couple of prominent circles. And in all of those circles, we have statutes that are not just remembering the Confederacy, but are revering the Confederacy. And those statutes were put up specifically to send a message to other folks that, look, we're still in charge down here, even though we lost what they call the War of the States, which of course was a war to tear apart the United States of America. And by the way, just as a matter of historical perspective, the city of New Orleans is 300 years old, and then there were folks 1,000 years there before that. The city doesn't really reflect that whole history. And the second part is Robert E. Lee never stepped foot in the city of New Orleans. He's not of New Orleans, he's not from us. And so as the mayor of the city, as we recreate this beautiful city that everybody loves, what we're beginning to say is we want our public monuments to reflect who we are as a people. And that's really what this is about.
Mayor Mitch Landrieu, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you,
Thanks
Mr.
for
Mayor.
having me.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.